Good morning. You're listening to The Brief Wake Up, your mindful start to the day. I am Handel, your daily coffee companion, helping you wake up informed, thoughtful, and maybe just a little amused before the day gets old. If you're commuting, corralling kids, or just standing in line for caffeine, you're in the right place. Let's get you caught up. For health this morning, let's talk about dementia, what actually lowers your risk. For a long time, dementia was treated as something that either happened to you or didn't. Genetics, bad luck, aging, end of story. That thinking is changing. The most comprehensive review of dementia science now says something striking. Up to 45% of dementia cases may be preventable, or at least delayed. Not with one miracle drug, with a set of very practical, very unsexy interventions, mostly in midlife. Here's what's new. First, dementia is increasingly understood as a vascular disease of the brain, as much as a neurodegenerative one. High blood pressure, high LDL cholesterol, diabetes, and obesity. These don't just affect your heart. They damage small blood vessels in the brain, impair blood flow, and accelerate cognitive decline. In fact, high LDL cholesterol was just added to the official list of major dementia risk factors. That's a big shift. Translation: managing blood pressure and cholesterol in your 40s and 50s is now considered brain protection, not just heart protection. Second, sensory loss is now recognized as a real driver of dementia. Hearing loss and vision loss aren't just inconveniences. They increase cognitive load, they reduce social interaction, and they force the brain to reallocate resources. And over time, that appears to accelerate cognitive decline. So hearing aids, vision correction, and cataract surgery, these are increasingly being viewed as dementia prevention tools, not just quality of life upgrades. Third, loneliness and depression matter more than we realized. Large studies now show that social isolation raises dementia risk by about 30%. Not because loneliness directly causes Alzheimer's, but because chronic stress, inflammation, and reduced cognitive stimulation all chip away at cognitive reserve. The brain is a use it or lose it organ. Fourth is air pollution. This is now officially part of the conversation. Fine particulate matter, the stuff you can't see, is linked to higher dementia rates. The mechanism is neuroinflammation and vascular injury. This reframes dementia as partly a public health and environmental issue, not just a personal lifestyle issue. And finally, education, exercise, and smoking still matter. Education builds cognitive reserve early in life. Physical activity improves blood flow and neuroplasticity. Quitting smoking meaningfully lowers long-term dementia risk. So what's the big picture shift? Dementia is no longer seen as just a disease of memory. It's increasingly seen as a life course disease of brain health. What you do in your 40s and 50s, blood pressure, cholesterol, hearing, vision, exercise, and social connection. These may matter more than what you do in your 70s. The hopeful message is this: we don't control everything, but we now control far more than we used to think. Your brain is not just aging, it's responding every day to how you treat the systems that support it. The news is next. Let's start with a developing story that is rapidly becoming a national flashpoint. Over the weekend, federal immigration agents fatally shot Alex Pretti, a 37-year-old U.S. citizen and ICU nurse, during an immigration enforcement operation in Minneapolis. Multiple videos reviewed by major outlets show Pretti being pepper sprayed, tackled, and pinned to the ground by several agents. Footage appears to show an agent removing a handgun from his waistband while he was already restrained. Moments later, Another agent fired multiple fatal shots. The Department of Homeland Security says the shooting was self-defense, claiming Pretti approached agents with a firearm and resisted efforts to disarm him. But state and city officials strongly dispute that account. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz has called the footage, quote, sickening, and is demanding a state-led investigation, arguing that federal authorities cannot credibly investigate themselves. According to state officials, federal agents initially restricted access to the scene, delaying Minnesota investigators. Pretti's family says he was holding a phone, not a weapon, and was trying to shield a woman from pepper spray when he was tackled. Multiple witnesses have filed sworn statements saying he never brandished a gun. This is now the second fatal ICE-related shooting in Minneapolis this month. Earlier in January, Renee Good, a 37-year-old mother of three, was shot and killed during a separate ICE operation. That case remains under investigation and has already drawn national scrutiny. The Minneapolis region has seen a major federal deployment, with nearly 3,000 immigration and federal agents sent into the area as part of what DHS has described as one of its largest enforcement operations in years. Since Pretti's killing, protests have spread to New York, Washington, D.C., Los Angeles, San Francisco, and Boston. The NBA even postponed the Minnesota Timberwolves game over security concerns tied to unrest. At the center of this is a growing state-federal confrontation over use of force, transparency, and whether federal immigration enforcement is operating outside meaningful local oversight. This is no longer just a question of what happened on one street in Minneapolis. It's becoming a test case for who controls investigations, how federal power is checked, and how use of force by federal agents is reviewed in real time. What began as a single use of force incident has now become a broader test of federal authority, transparency, and civil rights. With the video evidence challenging official accounts, pressure is mounting for independent investigations and tighter oversight of federal operations. This story is no longer just about immigration. It's about who gets to police, who gets to investigate, and who gets held accountable. The Big Sip is next. Have you ever heard of spatial agency bias? This bias determines why direction quietly shapes power, progress, and perception. Let's talk about something you've probably never noticed, but that is quietly shaping how you judge people, actions, and even yourself. It's called spatial agency bias. It's the tendency for our brains to associate direction in space with power, momentum, and agency. In cultures that read left to right, like English, we unconsciously map meaning onto space. Left becomes associated with the past, with what's behind us. Right becomes associated with the future, with what's ahead. So when we see someone facing or moving to the right, our brains subtly interpret that as progress, strength, and forward motion. And the research is surprisingly consistent. People shown facing to the right are judged as more powerful, more in control, and more dynamic, more likely to be going somewhere. Flip the same image so the person faces left, and without realizing it, viewers rate them as less agentic, less forward, and less dominant. Nothing about the person changed, only the direction. This shows up everywhere. In sports footage, a goal or aggressive play looks more forceful when it moves left to right than when it's mirrored. In advertising, cars are more often shown facing right, and when they are, people rate them as faster and more desirable. In historical paintings, when two people appear together, the more powerful or higher status person is more likely to be placed on the right side of the image. Even gender roles got spatially encoded for centuries. Women were more often shown facing left, subtly reinforcing cultural ideas about reduced agency. A pattern that has slowly weakened as social norms have changed. What makes this really interesting is that it's not hardwired. In cultures that read right to left, like Arabic and Hebrew, the pattern reverses. For those readers, left-facing figures are seen as more dynamic. Leftward movement feels like progress. That tells us this bias is learned. Years of reading train your brain to experience space as time. Left is what has happened. Right is what's coming next. So when something moves rightward, it doesn't just look like motion, it feels like movement into the future. This is why this matters beyond psychology trivia. It affects how leaders are photographed, how political ads are designed, how athletes are framed, how brands signal momentum, how you are perceived in a single image. And yes, it even affects selfies. A slight change in which direction you face can subtly change whether people see you as moving forward or looking back. The deeper point here is this: your brain doesn't just think in words, it thinks in space. Direction becomes a shortcut for meaning. Progress becomes a position. Agency becomes a vector. Which means a lot of what we call gut instinct is actually spatial habit. So next time you see an image that feels powerful, progressive, or dynamic, take a second look. You may be reacting not just to the person, but to the direction they're facing. The lighter roast is next. We say it casually. Time is a thief. It sounds poetic, but it's also brutally accurate. Because time doesn't steal in obvious ways. It doesn't kick down the door. It doesn't make a scene. It just quietly removes things from your life while you're busy. One day your kid needs help tying their shoes, then one day they don't. One day your parents are the people who fix everything, then one day you're the one they call. Nothing dramatic happens. No announcement, just a shift. And that's what makes time such an effective thief. It doesn't feel like loss in the moment. It feels like normal. The dangerous part isn't that time passes. The dangerous part is that we mentally tell ourselves, I'll do that later. I'll call them next week. We'll get together soon. Soon becomes a habit, and habits quietly turn into years. Here's where it gets personal. Most of us don't regret working too little. We regret missing moments we didn't realize were the last time. The last time your kid wants to be carried. The last time you hear a friend's laugh in a room. The last casual phone call with someone who won't be there much longer. Death makes this unavoidable. It's the final audit. It forces the realization that time was never just passing. It was being spent. Every relationship has a hidden clock on it. Not to scare you, but to tell you the truth. Your family, your friends, your parents, and your kids. They are not permanent features of your life. They are time-limited gifts. That sounds heavy, but it's actually clarifying. Because if time really is a thief, then attention is how you lock the door. Presence is how you protect what matters. Not perfect presence, not Hallmark movie presence. Real presence. Putting the phone down, making the call even when you're tired, showing up even when it's inconvenient. And when someone you love dies, what hurts most isn't just that they're gone. It's the inventory your brain runs. All the conversations you didn't have. All the time you assumed you had. So here's the lighter roast truth. Time is a thief, but it only steals what you leave unattended. You can't stop time, but you can decide what it takes. Spend it on people while they're still here. Because memories don't get created later. They only get created now. Our commemoration is next. Today, January 26th, carries a remarkable concentration of global, cultural, and historical meaning. On this day in 1950, India's constitution came into force, officially establishing the world's largest democracy as a republic. It marked a full transition from colonial rule to constitutional self-governance, a defining moment not just for India, but for post-colonial democracy worldwide. January 26th also marks the loss of Kobe Bryant, his daughter Gianna, and 7 others in 2020. It remains a date that carries emotional weight far beyond sports, becoming a moment to reflect on legacy, mentorship, fatherhood, and the sudden fragility of time. This date also marks January 26, 1788 in Australia, the arrival of the First Fleet and the beginning of European settlement. Officially recognized as Australia Day, it is also observed by many Indigenous Australians as Invasion Day or Survival Day, acknowledging both the founding of a modern nation and the beginning of dispossession and cultural trauma. On this day in 1926, John Logie Baird gave the first public demonstration of a working television system, a technological inflection point that reshaped politics, culture, war coverage, entertainment, and how humanity experiences shared reality. And in 1915, Rocky Mountain National Park was officially established, a milestone in the American conservation movement, reflecting the idea that some landscapes should be protected not for immediate profit, but for the long arc of future generations. Taken together, January 26 reminds us that democracy being born, legacies being cut short, nations being formed and contested, technology reshaping reality, and nature being preserved for people who aren't here yet. One date, carrying past, present, and future all at once. Today's stories all point to the same truth. Whether it's brain health, federal power, or how we perceive progress, small systems quietly shape big outcomes. What feels abstract, blood pressure, oversight, visual framing, or time, ends up determining real-world consequences. The common thread is agency. What we protect, what we question, and what we choose to pay attention to before time and momentum make the choice for us. This is Dr. Robinson for the Brief Wake Up. Stay calm, kind, and curious. I'll catch up with you tomorrow.